We're going to go through some very general vocabulary that is important for us to understand before we start analyzing sacraments individually. The first thing is matter. Matter is the physical material used within a sacrament. So for baptism, it's water. Confirmation, it's oil. For the Eucharist, it's bread and wine. Form indicates those words and actions which are required to be said and done in order for the sacrament to occur. If you just have water, you do not have baptism. You actually have to pour the water on the person. That's the action that must be done. And you have to say a certain thing. You have to say, I baptize you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. When you add the form, that is, the words and the actions, to the physical material, then you have the makings of a sacrament. And we'll look at those in each of the sacraments to come. The sign is the term that we use to describe both the matter and the form. The sign is just another way of saying the sacrament. So when you add the form and the matter, you have the sign. The entire sacrament is a sign. It points to some reality other than itself. It points to the spiritual reality of grace within the person. However, it's more than that. It's an efficacious sign, meaning not only does it point to that reality, it causes that reality. The sacrament actually causes grace. Symbol is a term that we often conflate with sign, but it does not mean the same thing, especially in sacramental theology. A symbol is any additional material or gesture that is used to produce a spiritual meaning. It doesn't actually produce a spiritual grace. So in baptism, we might give the person a candle for their baptism, symbolizing they've received the light of Christ. In the Eucharist, we might use incense, symbolizing the pleasing smell of our prayers coming to the throne of God. These do not produce a grace within us, but they symbolize something about the spiritual meaning of what's being done. The minister is the person who can confer a sacrament. Sometimes the minister is an ordained minister within the priesthood. However, sometimes it's not. And so for baptism, bishop, priest, and deacon, but we'll see exceptional cases where it can be someone else. And we'll look at each of the sacraments and who is deemed the minister and can only perform a sacrament. The subject is the person who can receive a sacrament. And so it's a different, it must be a living human person for all of the sacraments. However, there are different requirements for who can receive baptism, a living human person who's never been baptized, or confirmation, a living baptized person who's never received confirmation, so on and so forth. The disposition is the status of a person which allows or precludes the reception of the sacraments, meaning it can be something that prevents them. So for baptism, if you've already been baptized, that's a disposition that precludes you from being baptized again. For confirmation, if you've already been confirmed, you can't be confirmed again. For marriage, if you're already married, you can't be married again. So there are certain dispositions that allow us or prevent us from receiving a sacrament. Also, there are subjective intentions. These are reasons or purposes for administering or receiving a sacrament. And we can look at the intention from the minister's perspective. Are they dispensing the sacraments correctly? And the subject's perspective. Are they receiving the sacraments correctly with the correct intentions? And then grace. Grace is participation in the divine life. That is divine assistance and help. There are different types of grace that we will look at, and each sacrament gives their own particular graces to help us live the spiritual life. Finally, there are a few additional terms. Valid. Valid means that a sacrament is performed correctly in accord with the requirements, meaning that it actually occurred. Licit is a legal term. It means that the sacrament is performed in accord with the laws. A sacrament can be valid, but it can be illicit, meaning it was done illegally or not rightly, so to speak. And finally, there's worthy. Worthy means that the sacrament is received with the appropriate disposition, meaning that we've received it in the right way to accept the full panoply of graces that God intends to give us through this sacrament.